plus playing your version of it because I wanted to give it a try. At that
That's
point, I
not
was
true.
like,
We both had physical copies.
I did not have a physical copy of Bloodborne.
Yes, sir. We both had physical copies. We went to GameStop and bought them.
No, we had physical copies of Monster Hunter Generations.
We had that
3DS. But I didn't. I never owned a physical copy of Bloodborne. I can attest you to that.
I can attest that you did. So I remember holding 2 copies of that game, being like, "God damn, we're gonna get our butts touched."
No, it sure as hell wasn't mine. I never owned that shit. I only owned it digitally. I am fucking dead certain I would fuck my own wife and get started to prove you wrong there.
It sounds like it wasn't me.
Later topic.
Why don't they believe me?
The point of the story is that Kirk was the one who introduced me to fucking Bloodborne. And little by little, I started getting introduced into the series and how things worked. But while first playing Bloodborne, not into it. I'm like, it's similar to these other things, but still, I'm just not into this. I don't have any fucking reference to what the fuck the story is even talking about remotely. I don't even know why I'm doing this. I don't even know why I should even care for doing this. It's whatever. This is not grasping my attention whatsoever. And to this day, the story, still, be it what it may be, these games have never been interesting to me for the story. I've never fucking felt that way about them. The design of the story of what its atmosphere becomes, yes, I'm enraptured by it, but I don't fucking jump into it to find out what this character is about, who are these characters about, what are their backgrounds, why I should care about them. I have no emotional ties to any of them. So I can say, fuck it all, and don't fear the old blood. Let it into you.
Yeah. I can see that.
It's just been like a tumultuous fucking series of events where I can't get into the games. They're difficult. They're just not my thing. I have way more fun just fucking breezing through some other shit because I wanted to get through a story, and I was just consuming stories left and right from video games. So I never could get into these. It wasn't until like 2016, 2017 when I finally sat down and started playing a bit more of the game itself, and I started finding the gameplay to be more enjoyable. Once I started getting to know a bit of the things here and there, and then at that point, that's when Kirk went ahead and hopped in and joined in on my gameplay, my playthrough of it. I'm like, all right, we're going to go through this shit, and I'll teach you a little bit about what's going on. So, to wrap things up, the way we were introduced is that you've had somebody else kind of more or less guiding you to what's going on within the game worlds, how they play, so that way you can more or less understand what's going on, because I'm almost certain that none of us would have enjoyed these games if we never had some sort of a guide to go through it.
Okay, that's a funny thing to say, because we've all played Dark Souls 1, right?
Yeah.
And if no one was there to help you, Dark Souls 1 is one of those games where more than Dark Souls 2, more than Dark Souls 3, like if you don't get where to go in that first 15, 20 minutes of the game, you're going to have a terrible experience. Because you think about like games like Legend of Zelda, you're like, oh man, this is just adult Legend of Zelda. No, it's not.
No,
not at all.
No, because those are linear.
Not at all. Because you just like get to Firelink Shrine, which is one of the, your first major bonfires, and you think, oh man, there's skeletons over here. Those guys must be punks. I'm gonna go kill them.
Nope.
No, you're not. You're not gonna. You shouldn't even be there until way later, anyways, right? Because there's all these forking like paths that you can take that'll get you here or here or here,
And God forbid, like the skeletons aren't even the worst part. God forbid you notice the small flight of stairs next to the bonfire, and you take those down, and then you see another flight of stairs, and you take those down, and you open a door, and you go down an elevator, and you see this sunken city, and you're like, wow, incredible, a whole sunken city.
Yeah.
I'm going to go explore. And then splashes up on the screen, New Londo, ruins. And you're like, oh shit, New Londo ruins, huh? Boy, this
New
looks
area.
exciting. And then you walk across the bridge and you see a ghost appear, and you're like, oh shit, ghosts? I thought the skeletons were fucking cool looking. Look at these ghosts. And you take a swing at the ghost, and you go entirely through the ghost, and you didn't do anything. And then it hits you twice and you're dead. And you think to yourself, why the fuck is this a path at the beginning of the game?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is Dark Souls. Because it doesn't care where you go. You are encouraged to make those mistakes.
Yeah.
Because this is your story.
And God forbid you get like the master key.
And in your story, technically, you would have all been dead.
Yeah.
Within the
That's
first
right.
30 minutes, nobody would have made that shit out alive.
God
That's true.
forbid you get the master key as your starting item when you create your character. And you take
Yeah, God forbid you think, wow, this looks really useful on your first character.
and you take almost that same path, but instead of going down into New Londo, instead you open this door that can only be opened by the master key, or maybe not only, but it is opened.
There is the Blighttown key.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you open it and you head over to two other paths. One is Blighttown, and if you don't know about Blighttown, talk to anybody who's played Dark Souls about Blighttown.
If they don't immediately look at you and go, ugh, they actually haven't played Dark Souls.
Not at all. And then there's the Valley of the Drakes to the other path, and that is just going to destroy you. There's not a chance you're making out of that place alive.
But if you do, you can come up on the fastest route to the best shield in the entire game.
Yeah.
But you have to like really know what you're doing, because there are a lot of drakes and an undead dragon that are ready to pound their fist and say, you're in the wrong neighborhood, motherfucker.
That's right.
Dragons will use dig.
Yeah.
Dragons will use dig
So
into your flesh.
in this game, those dragons are wearing blue, and you are red. And you went into the wrong neighborhood going into that fucking Valley of the Drakes.
It's very true.
Okay.
Very true.
That's a pretty gnarly first experience for the game, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because my first experience with Dark Souls was going into the New Londo ruins
That's so bad.
That's not the place.
in the beginning. Yeah.
See, like, if you know about the game, you've played it a few times, you're like, oh, yeah, that's not so bad. You just run up, go up to the stairs, get the transient curse, it's fine,
Yeah.
But if you don't know anything and it's the first time you played, that's a good way to put the controller down and not look at the game anymore.
Yeah. That game, it's difficult, but it's worth your time, because if someone were to ask you, like, if you believe in the statement of it's not how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get back up, if you think you're like a real big fan of that statement and that nothing can hold you down, then play Dark Souls and prove it, because that game will knock you on your ass time and time and time again.
It is ridiculous.
Relentlessly. The same. You can know what's going to happen in a certain fight or in a certain instance. Like, you're going to get jumped if you come through this hallway. But, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Like, you just misstep something or something is slightly different and you die again anyway.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if you believe that you can get up from anything and, you'll keep pushing, fucking play that game, because it will validate that sense. And you feel so good, when you fuck something up like that and you redeem yourself by getting it right, or, you walk into something you weren't expecting, like Snorlax and Pikachu, for example. You have no idea what the fuck you're walking into, and then you see that fight and you're like, okay, there's this guy. And this guy?
Yeah.
And then the fight starts and you see what they do, and it's just like, fuck me.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Small and Ornstein were definitely like, that was it. That was when you have to roll your sleeves up, and that's where boys become men, for sure.
Absolutely.
Like, that is the biggest wall that you have to go over in the entire game, without a doubt.
Yes. Except the literal biggest wall you have to go over in that game is the wall to Anorlando.
Yeah, to get to that fight.
To get to that fight, yes.
Yeah.
And the biggest wall to the entire genre is psychologically your own mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can attest to that with a story from Bloodborne. I don't want to keep everyone listening to us for too long, but so I will keep this brief. But I try to play on one character and like go through a cycle, and then when DLC comes out, I'm like, oh, neat DLC, and then I just keep playing on that character. So I was on like New Game Plus 2 in Bloodborne, and the DLC had come out. I'm forgetting the name, but it doesn't matter. There's only one. You'll know it if you see it.
The DLC is called The Old Hunters.
That's the one. And the last boss, spoiler alert, I guess, for like a 6-year-old game, you fight the Orphan of Cause. The hunters killed the god-esque being Cause, who was with child, and the orphan, just kind of mourns with its mother's body in the hunter's nightmare. That boss can hit you so goddamn hard, it's not fair.
Yeah. And in like a certain phase of that boss, you can get hit from anywhere.
Yeah. It's on the difficulty I was on because of the playthrough I was on. Since I had been through it like twice, I could get two-shotted by anything that boss did. Anything. And Bloodborne is a highly aggressive game on both ends. You are supposed to be super aggressive, and the enemies are 3 times more aggressive than you.
Yeah.
So that boss kept me on the back foot all the time. Like, it didn't matter. I couldn't call for help. I couldn't get anyone to help me do it, because they'd run into the fight and they'd be like, oh, this is going to be child's play, and then they'd get one shot. And then it's just me and a boss scaled for 2 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was rough.
So I had to fight that boss by myself. I swear to God, it took me like 8 hours a day for a week straight to kill that boss.
Yeah, I'm still remembering where all 3 of us went in to kill that boss.
Yeah.
I'm remembering the fucking headache I had beating that motherfucker the first time. It hurt.
I
so
remember.
Bad.
You were very, very frustrated.
Yeah,
that was quite the fucking wall to beat my head against.
Yeah,
but you did. You beat your head through the wall. The wall gave first.
And I couldn't call on anybody either. That was the sad part, because I was at the low point of the game's fucking online player base.
And I don't think they had passwords in yet.
No, I don't think so.
I think they patched that in. But it was
at that time the game did have passwords.
Did it?
Yeah, because it was after the last update the game ever had. After that, it was just nothing but maintenance periodically. I never had anything else. But at that point, yeah, they had passwords, but I still couldn't call upon anybody because hardly anybody was there for 1, 2. Anybody that was there, sure as hell wasn't gonna do fucking multiplayer in that area or know how to beat that boss.
That's a bad time, man.
Yeah, so I had to fucking just suck it up and deal with it. But unlike Kirk here, I was fortunate enough to do it on my first playthrough of Bloodborne.
Yes.
Because I knew that the expansion already existed. Since I officially bought through and went through the game after the expansion came out for it. So that's when I fully dove into the game itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, after I got introduced to the series, I got into the gameplay and everything. That's when we started going into Dark Souls 3, because that's when it started to become a thing.
That's right. God, Dark Souls 3, what a game. I remember Ish and I, when we had started, being super chummy, had decided we wanted to do a Bloodborne run-through. Just because, for shits and giggles. This was like 2.5 years ago. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm super down. I love playing that game. Like, I look for excuses to do it. So we made new characters and we ran through the game and we were like, yeah, we'll just like fight all the bosses and shit and have a great time of it. And you can learn a lot from a person by the build they make in a Souls game.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, here it comes.
So we made our characters. Ish made Smeg, and I made Smug. So we were Smeg and Smug, and we went through the game being very smeggy and very smug.
No doubt.
We got about a third of the way through the game, and we stopped for like a week or two, just because I got busy with work, and I think Ish was out working too, so
yeah,
just wasn't really working out. And then I got into a car accident and broke my wrist.
Oh fuck, that was around that time, wasn't it?
It was.
Oh,
and so I broke my wrist. I had to have surgery to repair it. I was cast up for like 6 weeks. I was missing video games pretty damn hard. But, I couldn't hold a controller at all. Like, at one point I tried to, like, fold a shirt. Like, I tried to grab a shirt, I grabbed two, and so the extra one I tried to fold back up and put back away. Like, I couldn't even fold the shirt. It hurt so bad to even try to hold fabric. But, like, week 3, halfway through, Ish is like, I wish you felt better. I would love to play Bloodborne. And I was like, give me a fucking second. And I picked up the controller in my right hand, and I set it on my fat-ass belly, and I, like, opened my fingers as best as I could, and, like, very lightly rest it in my left hand, and tried to see if I could move the analog stick and, like, press shoulder buttons and shit. And I could. Not great, but enough. And so from then on, we kept going with our Bloodborne playthrough with just minor breaks every hour or two to rest my wrist, because it was fuego after a while.
There's something to be said about that the Bloodborne game was so engaging and so like such a fun thing to play that you could have a fucking car accident and break your hand, your wrist, and still, like, you don't want to go rest. You just want to go back and play Bloodborne. There's something to be said about that.
Bloodborne, you'll have a car accident.
Yeah. You usually think about games that are bad. You're like, man, that game's a car wreck. No, the Bloodborne is actually a car wreck for us.
We had such a great time going through that run. Freddie joined us at about the 40-50% mark.
Yeah.
And we just fucking kicked the shit out of the game, and it was so much fun. I love running through those games and just dunking on them because of what I know and what bringing your friends into it does.
I like Bloodborne especially because it made me feel good for going like the magic route, which I did. So instead of like doing the conventional, like, I'm just going to be attacking crazy back and forth, attacking. I usually sat back in our engagements and I'm like, all right, I got the heal ready for everybody. That was what made that game especially fun for me.
Yeah.
Because, I usually play the healer role. So that was awesome that I could do that. Like, in the other Souls games, it's so hard to do that. In 1, it's impossible. But in 2 and 3, where they were like, oh man, people like to play this game together, they made it a lot easier. The healing spells, have an AoE as opposed to just being a single target thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool, at least about Bloodborne.
For clarification, though, in Dark Souls 1, it wasn't that they were single target. It's that they were personal.
They were personal, yeah.
Single target implies that you could target.
Right.
You could not.
You could not. Not at all.
One last little factoid on our Bloodborne run through. That was my physical therapy. I did no therapy to get my hand and my wrist back in shape. I just played Bloodborne, and so finishing that run through got me back to the point where I am now. And
yeah, I mean,
aside from it getting kind of numb when it gets cold, My wrist is the same as it ever was before. Thanks, Bloodborne.
Engaging and therapeutic.
God, yes.
What other game can you say is like that?
Let's see. Dark Souls 2. What a game.
Yeah. I was so excited for that game when it was first released. I played through it so many times that I ignored the obvious problems with it because I was just so like on the high of Dark Souls 1. You know, I was like, oh my god.
You're just like, more Dark Souls?
Oh,
give it to me.
You
It's
know,
lesser? I don't care. It's more.
yeah, 300 hours in, I was just like, whoa, this game is radical. And then
You stop to take a look around and you're like, maybe not.
well, no, and then Scholar of the First Sin came out, which is the kind of like rework / expansion for the game. And it just made me see how kind of shitty Dark 2 Vanilla was.
It was. I can confirm for you that it was, because Dark Souls 1 was a hard game for me to get through. Like, there were quite a few fights I ended up calling for help on, because I just was getting stomped. I never needed help in Dark Souls 2 Vanilla. Not once.
It's power stance, man. That was all that
I didn't even use power stance. I just fucked around and like whatever I was doing was working. And so like I beat the game and I was like, fuck yeah, I did it. And I was like, but that is not satisfying.
No.
Like
Dark Souls easy mode.
I should not have beaten
Yeah.
this as easily as I did.
Yeah, it was very much Dark
And
Souls
then
easy
Scholar of the First Sin comes out and they're like, hey man, we heard that you thought it was too easy and that you want some DLC and some things need to be changed. We hear you. Here it is. Try it out. And I was like, nah, fuck you. And then I saw it on sale for like $10 and I was like, fuck me. All right, let's go. And best purchase I've made at that sort of price cut, because Scholar of the First Sin edition is sick.
Yeah, it's so sick that people from the PC Dark Souls community have turned that into like a Dark Souls 3 mod, where it's like, this is the expansion. This is the Scholar of the Second Sin for Dark Souls 3, where it adds new enemies, new ways to fight the boss, new items, whether they're items from previous games or new things that they thought of. You know, PC Dark Souls modding community have done wonderful things for the game that are already wonderful. You know?
Like before Dark Souls Remastered, those beautiful, beautiful people who made it better on PC so that it didn't run like shit.
Yeah.
When there was no reason for it to run like shit in the first place.
No doubt.
So, kind of rolling Dark Souls 3 and mods into one thing. We were recently talking about it when it came to my attention. You know, as a filthy console peasant, I don't get to do anything with mods, so I don't really actively look for them. But this Dark Souls 3 Cinders mod came to my attention, and like Ish is saying, that one is supposed to be basically like a Scholar of the First Sin version of Dark Souls 3, where it's like, here's Dark Souls 3, pretty good game, right? Well, we understand that you think it could be better and some things are missing, yada, yada, yada. Boom, here's everything you want and more. And I could barely scratch the surface on the sort of things that it has, but it's got like 100 new armor sets, over 100 rings, a shit ton of new weapons. Garbage weapons got reworked so that every single weapon is viable. Magic got a rework so that it doesn't suck. Your magic points will regenerate naturally now. They literally made everything better. Everything is a better version of itself.
Yeah.
Also, crab weapons and crab armor.
That's right. Yeah, that was the addition. But just on that, like, there's no reason for you not to go. If you're playing on PC, there's no reason for you to not go check that mod out and put it on your Dark Souls 3. You know, because it's the best way to play it so far. We're running a little crazy on time, but what I did want to do, I wanted to do a little like our favorites. Like, what was our favorite game? What was our favorite boss? Our favorite armor set, maybe, or our favorite boss weapon. You know,
Okay.
just to kind of see where we're at, because I feel like we never really had this conversation.
We have not, and that's a really good question. Does anyone have their answers? If not, I will go first.
Oh, well, then you go first.
Okay. So my favorite armor off the fucking drop is not Giant Dad's, but it's a good one. I am a fan of Dark Souls 1 Havel armor. Just straight up Dark Souls 1 Havel armor. All that delicious poise. Mwah!
Oh, yeah.
Mwah!
Oh, it meant so much back then, too, the poise.
It meant everything.
Yeah.
Like, poise. Freddy has unfortunately not really known poise like we have. And Jesus, it was such a game changer.
Yeah, that's why Giant Dad was so good. It's because it had just the right amount of poise with just the right amount of, like, weight distribution and damage.
Yes. So that is my favorite armor set. My favorite game is Dark Souls 3. Just because I feel like it's the perfect balance of every game they had made up to that point. I love the original Dark Souls and what it does. I love that they were bold enough to do what they did with Dark Souls 2. I know that's not a popular opinion, but like having a stat for how fast you can use items and shit like that drastically changes your build. Whether you like it or not, it does. And I think that's a bold choice among all the other choices they made, like not making it directly connected. I love that too, but three is my game. Favorite boss fight? Jeez, that's the tough one, because there are a lot of great bosses. Moon Presence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because the fight with Gehrman is awesome, and there's a lot of last boss fights that are super cool, but there really isn't like a just kidding, there's one more boss in the Dark Souls. And there is in Bloodborne with the Moon Presence.
Yeah, I mean, Dark Souls 2 had what? 1, 2... The last boss fight for Dark Souls 2 was 1, 2, 3... That was 4 people. And 2, like, two swerves. You know?
True. I forgot about that, actually.
Yeah.
True. I did not remember that.
And it's also safe
that
to say...
was a really great fight, too.
It's also a thing to say that Moon Presence was from Bloodborne.
Yes.
In case people are like, that was never in a Dark Souls game.
I did not remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Moon Presence is fucking radical, because it just comes completely out of nowhere, and you think the game is ending, and then it just suddenly isn't over, and there's one more fight, and it's got just like these crazy bullshit attacks and a mechanic where it's like, hey, you have 1 HP and you can't heal now. Have fun. It's not a super duper hard fight, but I feel like it's just like the perfect way to end off the true ending run.
Yeah.
Kind of like a troll. Just a last troll attempt.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just like, okay, well, you beat this boss, and he was pretty tough, but now beat this even tougher last boss.
Yes.
See how you do there, fuckers.
And all the items you've already spent, you're not getting them back.
No.
You do 2 bosses back to back.
No. That's a good one, though. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't think I said favorite weapon. No. I gotta go with those.
Moonlight Sword?
I do love me some Moonlight Greatsword, but no. I gotta go with the twin greatsword, or twin ultra greatswords from Dark Souls 3. From
Ring City?
From Ring City, yeah.
That's a good
one.
Yeah.
That and Leto's Great Hammer are so satisfying. Yeah. They had to get nerfed, and I'm glad that they did get nerfed. But like day one when those came out, oh my god! If you had a true strength or quality build, and you were rocking those things with enough stamina, you could just combo people. Like one combo would just kill anybody. It was magnificent.
Those were awesome. Freddy, Do you have your
Yeah.
picks for this discussion?
Yeah, for me, I want to say favorite armor set. It's probably gonna be. It's from Dark Souls 3. It's gonna be I think it's the Undead Legion. Is the name of it?
Okay.
Yes.
The one that I think
The Abyss Watchers.
the Abyss Watchers use. Yeah,
That's a really cool one.
yeah, and the fucking greatsword that they use as well, because I like the animation
The
style
flip?
that they use for it.
Oh, heck
the
yeah.
different combo attacks.
That Artorias shit right there.
Yeah, that was super fucking rad when I saw that, and I got to try that out. That was my jam for a cool minute, up until like the Ring City DLC came along and brought those twin ultra greatswords, and then that shit changed.
It's true.
But yeah, no, that greatsword was really fucking rad. But as far as like my favorite boss fight, however, that is gonna have to go to Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower.
That
Bloodborne.
is such a good fight.
That's really, really up
Oh
there
my
for me.
god, I'm kind of mad that's not my choice.
Yeah. Everything about it is just so radical. It's so like what you would hope Bloodborne would be at some point.
That to me felt like a samurai game.
It really was. Like there's so many like one-on-one duel moments that you have in that fight.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
That is
for
that is
each different phase, it
perfect
just
fight.
gets worse and worse, and then you find out Lady Maria's backstory,
Yeah.
and it just gives that fight, that duel, that encounter, just much more context and much more emotion to it.
That's right. It's a very good fight with, I would say, the perfect ramping difficulty encapsulated in its phases and
Mhm.
in its transitions, and then like what comes before it and like the area you're exploring and the story behind that, and then what you find after her, what she's protecting. And, like it's also cohesively beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just me on that one, but that was fucking so much fun.
What was your favorite game for the Soul series?
Out of all of it, it's easily Bloodborne.
Yeah.
For Dark Souls, that'll be Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, that's
the
fair.
one I was able to get through the most without having a guide.
Yeah.
That
seems like
first run through.
that seems like everybody's go-to. Like it's like Dark Souls 3 or like Bloodborne, because it was so intense and it was so different from the formula at the time.
Yeah, it was faster paced, similar to Bloodborne.
Yeah, and you didn't,
because it's Dark Souls, it still had that slow, methodical gameplay to it.
And you didn't need a shield like at all. You had one, you could have equipped one, but it wasn't about like shield combat. It was very visceral. What was the last one? What was the last question?
Weapon.
Weapon, boss weapon, or any
Favorite
weapon. Yeah.
From Dark Souls is going to be that greatsword that we mentioned. I forget the name of it.
Farron's Greatsword.
Farron's Greatsword, yeah.
Ooh.
For Bloodborne, it's easily the Word Gig.
Oh, Whirligig.
Fucking chainsaw.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
Not so much because of its power and its strength, because that to be like the easy way out, but like the way it works as a weapon. It's like you're looking at a blunt weapon with a fucking with a chainsaw wrapped at the end with a motor within its own fucking handle.
And like,
somehow,
exactly. So I'm like trying to wrap my head around how that would logically work in real life. It's just a fucking mystery.
It's like a weed whacker. It's like a weed. That's what it is.
Yeah, but it's such a powerful ass weed whacker. Like this is the kind of weed whacker you normally wouldn't use in any situation whatsoever. But if you had one, what kind of a strength would you have to physically have to fucking be able to wield it?
I'm more worried about what you would use it on. Like it's like if the Plants vs. Zombies plants were real things, you would have to use it on those things.
Yeah, and that sort of mentality, that's what makes me like it even more, because it's so absurd. It's not necessary, but I'm so fucking glad it's there.
Yeah, it's
because
cool.
It makes the mind run wild with the imagination.
Totally.
It's cool. It wasn't my favorite weapon from Bloodborne, but it's definitely really interesting conceptually, especially like how it's used in the lore of the game, because that's terrifying as shit. Yeah, those are good choices. Both of you guys had really good choices, for sure.
Don't let us down.
So my favorite
Bring
game.
it home, good buddy.
My favorite game was Dark Souls 1.
Shocker.
There was something about it that was just so amazing when it came to like everything. The design of the map, everything was connected. There was no like bullshit. That it was just a world that you have jumped into. You know, the only thing that was like out in the distance was the prison where you start, where you have to get taken from, by like a crow, or a raven to get there, or the painted world of Aramis or whatever it's called.
Ariamis, yeah.
Those were good. It just felt like a great game. That was my favorite one for sure. I had a lot of good times with it. I didn't really have too much help with it, but it was good. My favorite weapon, weird enough to say, was just the regular club from Dark Souls 2.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go with like some fucking dinky ass talisman.
No, you're right. No, it was just the regular club from Dark Souls 2. And why it was my
power
favorite
stance,
because of
so
power
you could
stance.
go clubbing.
Yeah, I would just go clubbing seals the entire game. It was amazing. What a great time. It was so simple. You got it so early, and you could use it for the entire game. There's not a lot of weapons that you could do that with in the Souls games. Like in 3, you could use the broadsword for the entire game, but it doesn't feel as good or as fun with how many like cool weapons there are in Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
My favorite armor set was the dark set. There's something about walking around like Skullomania or fucking La Parka that's just so satisfying.
The patron god, La Parka.
And especially if you can do like emotes, there's like so many silly things you could do with that armor.
Cue the meme.
Yeah.
Cue all the memes.
My favorite boss fight was fighting Gwyn for Dark Souls 1. I don't think there's
beautiful choice.
I don't think there's ever been a boss fight in any of the Souls games that had more of an emotional connection than that fight, without a doubt. Like there was this solemn, just almost eerie, sad music in the background as you're fighting this like heap of meat that's not even like a man anymore. Just completely wasted away being that was once just this great king with so much power, so much potential,
so much deceit. And that's something we were talking about earlier. Is we were talking about you brought up Lost Odyssey, and it reminded me of the last boss theme song. It is a fucking kick-ass song, but like it sets a tone of like dread and finality, but it's got such a high tempo and it's so hype, and like that's cool for a turn-based RPG, and it's cool for basically anything. But like the point of Gwyn is that you know what he did in the story, and you've seen some of the consequences to what he did, but like he did it to him, and it affected in varying ways everyone around him and everyone in the world. Like the knights that went with him to make sure that nothing stopped him from linking the fire, like they all turned into fucking ghosts, and their armor turned black. Yeah. They wore silver armor and their armor was black, and they're ghosts. Like that's fucking ridiculous.
It's super baller.
And like you're walking down the final pathway into the kiln, and like the ghosts of his fallen black knights are like walking past you, not even giving a fuck. And then you walk into the arena and you see this like beyond hollowed Gwyn. Like it looks like he doesn't even know what he's doing. He's just like, oh, someone's here, gotta kill him. Like any other hollow in the world, and you fight him just like any other hollow in the world, parry him to death.
Yeah, and they did that.
And his music is just so sad and like
they did
pathetic.
That again. They did that again in part 2 with Vendrick too. So it's just like they knew they had a good thing when they did it. But I think that's enough for us and the Dark Souls talk. That was a lot. That was plenty. There's so much
we can
more
we can
talk
go on
about,
if you
too.
guys are interested.
We'll go on
No, I gotta get going.
on another episode.
No, I mean like another episode.
For sure.
Oh.
We'll talk about what like the timeline or the lore next time. For sure. However crazy that shit is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it for us for today. This has been episode 3. I have been Mike.
I have been Ish. And I still am Ish.
I at some point was Freddy, but maybe not.
Maybe. We'll see who he is next week.
And this has been episode 3 of the ChungaBunga podcast. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you did, super appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I just need to let you know, I'm gonna pre.
Gonna pre. Super hard, guys.
Gonna be so hard.
Gonna pre so good.
It's been great, guys.
It's been real.
And
We'll see you guys next week.
yes.
We have a very special episode coming.
Yeah, I can't
Where-
wait.
Go on.
No, I just can't wait.
Oh, well, I can't wait because feelings are gonna get hurt.
Yeah, but there's always hope of a new variety.
There is hope. And
Yeah.
occasionally not.
Yeah.
Most of the time not.
This was the ChungaBunga podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.
Goodbye.